Welcome to the What's Working podcast, the podcast where we ask, what's working? Hey everybody, welcome to the What's Working podcast. I am Jimmy Nash, and I am thrilled to have in the studio today Tom Hayes, founder and leader of Riley Hayes, a creative agency that's built a reputation for blending smart strategy with authentic storytelling to help brands connect with their audiences in meaningful ways. Tom, thank you so much for being here.
Glad to be here. Thanks, Jimmy.
Yeah, and you're in Minneapolis, correct?
Yep. Right now I'm overlooking a beautiful lake with spectacular colors on the trees. So
Awesome.
life
That's
is good.
one of the few
Life
places
is
I
good.
have not made my way to Minneapolis yet, but you're making a
Well,
strong case for it.
Yeah, if you come mid-October. So
Okay. I think that's true for a lot of places.
yeah,
Mid-October is good.
yeah.
Well, anyway, tell me a little bit about Riley Hayes. What got you started in this space as an agency?
Well, the truth is, if you're not a very good employee, perhaps you should become an owner. That
Yeah.
my sense of independence and those sorts of things really kind of led me to the belief that, gee, I might be able to do it better. And in some cases I have, and in plenty of cases I haven't.
Mm-hmm.
But it's been a great adventure the whole time. I come from the creative side. So I started out as a copywriter at a well-known agency called Carmichael Lynch. And
Okay.
at Carmichael Lynch, I got to use my creativity, and which was a great joy. Um, but I didn't get to use some of the other skills I have, and the way my crazy brain works. I kind of needed to satisfy lots of things, and I
Mm-hmm.
found myself sometimes precariously over suggesting to the owners of the companies I worked for just exactly how they should run their business, which is a foolish tactic, but I was a foolish young man.
That's funny. Well, it comes with the territory, and you got to learn because not everybody's meant to own their own business, and not
Yeah.
everybody's
No,
meant to be
that's
an
right.
employee. So,
Yeah, and it's whatever your gift is, if it's to be a great employee, be a great employee. If it's to be an owner, if it's to be a freelancer,
mhm.
whatever, just make sure you find the spot that's right for you.
Well, I love your tagline, the create with joy,
Yeah,
because I see that so many creatives. I'm a creative as well. You get in a ballpark where you're creating because you have to create now for a client to make money, but to create with joy, I would imagine that creates a purer product. Would you not say?
yeah. I think sometimes as creatives, we pretend like we're working in a coal mine, um, and uh, we have this great opportunity to create thoughts that become creative and go out into the world and might change some people's perceptions. To me, what a great way to make a living. It's all indoors. There's no heavy lifting. You have to, yeah, you have to push your pencil across the page, but it ain't so bad. And I think my experience with people who grumble about having to do work in that area is
Mhm.
just bananas to me. So we're really trying to stand out from that kind of world. And the reality is, when we do create things that serve other people, um, an emotional benefit to that is joy.
Right.
There's when you come up with a great idea and
Right.
like all these endorphins are flowing through your blood, and it's a gas.
Oh yeah, that moment of inspiration when
Yeah.
it all comes
Yeah.
together.
Yeah. And something you
Absolutely.
previously may have felt was unsolvable, you know? That's, uh, you know, that's how we should live our lives in a joyful way.
Absolutely. So now over the years, well, how many years has it been since you started Riley Hayes?
34.
34. So a
Yep.
lot has changed in 34
Yep.
years. What has changed for you in your company with just first of all, digital transformation now all the way to AI,
Yeah.
and what has stayed the same for you?
Yeah, I think historically we had a lot of people doing production work, those sorts of things. Now we're more of a consortium of senior professionals creating and doing strategy. The whole all the production work, even some of the emails that we may have done in the past, AI's really taken that over. And we want to slot ourselves where AI isn't, and
Hmm.
so that's been a big change. Um, Obviously, when I started, I loved doing radio. I mean, radio was such a
Sure.
gas. You bring these actors into the room, and magic happened. They made your script come alive.
Hmm.
And it took about 4 hours to both record and edit, and it could be on the air that afternoon, which was just so much fun. It doesn't exist in the same way, you
Hmm.
know.
Right.
It just doesn't. So, we've seen a lot of changes, but fundamentally, what hasn't changed is how people react to messaging.
Hmm.
Aristotle had three modes of persuasion, and those three modes were pathos. You could persuade someone with passion.
Right.
Ethos, you could persuade someone because of your reputation. Let's call that the Mercedes kind of effect. And logos, you could persuade someone through logic. And and those things haven't changed. The
Hmm.
role of storytelling hasn't changed since we were all huddled around a fire.
Right.
Um, And it's that constancy of human beings that continues to make this a great business to be in.
Right. So the storytelling, that's what I always love talking about. I love just the story because that's what draws you in.
Hmm.
Ha- is the way you tell the story have to be any different? Nowadays, people they just have a shorter attention span. I have a shorter
Yeah.
attention
Yep.
span.
Yeah.
Is there certain things where you maybe when you first started, you'd say, okay, we can tell this story over this much time, and now we've got to
Hmm.
tell it over this much time?
Yeah. I mean, when I started, there was such a thing as long copy ads where you'd
Hmm.
have a headline at the top, a small visual, and the rest of it would be 8, 10 paragraphs where you told the story. Um, I, that doesn't exist. What does the parallel that does exist is when we do billboards, and billboards are require just this level of poetry. It has to have a density to it. The old rule: no more than 7 words. And the same is true. With banner ads and all sorts of things. We have to be that much better
Hmm.
on a constant basis. Because when you write a great billboard, it's that's happening. That's fun.
Right. Well,
So there
so
are parallels.
right, of course. So, like, let's say I was looking through your portfolio and I was
Yeah.
impressed with your Delta Sky Miles
Yep.
campaign. That's
Yep.
something I've
Yeah.
definitely seen out. So, like, walk me through. Delta says we're looking to increase this, and they're wanting to grow that program. And I saw all the different ways you had core elements,
Mhm.
but it had to
Yep.
fit so many different mediums.
Yep. Yep. So that the campaign that's on there essentially, um, first off, we know Delta so well. We've been working with either Delta or its predecessor, Northwest Airlines, since
Hmm.
1997. So we know them very well, and
Hmm.
so when they come to us, they don't have to lay out. All the brand elements, this, that, and the other thing,
Hmm.
because so often we had a role in creating that tone. So they kind of came to us and said, we're looking to take things in a different direction. We're looking for a new way of showing, particularly this upgrade in miles. Um, and we then came forth with, I bet we had 6 campaigns that we showed them that had different
Hmm.
ways of looking at it. And the strike through campaign was the most successful. But the the thing that makes those work is that we still rely on the benefit that people enjoy with those miles, going to a beautiful
Right.
place. You know,
Hmm.
that's kind of never lost in the messaging. Rather than just treat the miles as some sort of denominator, um, we treat them as this way to go to the place you want to be.
That's great. Yeah. That gives you a good, I get that. That's a baseline of, because a lot of places offer miles, but Delta, they fly so many places you can use
Yeah,
those miles. Right now,
yeah,
we booked a trip on another card that it got 5 times the miles. We're like, yes, we get all those
yeah.
miles.
Well, where do you go? Yeah, it's in Delta. Delta's a wonderful company to work for. They're people. And I'm so proud of the work we were able to do for them.
That's awesome. So, running an agency knows as much about people as it is ideas. Let's talk about what is everyone at your company, are they in office? Are they remote, hybrid?
We mostly have senior people, so it's kind of a hybrid situation.
Hmm.
First off, as senior people, I think all of us value having an office to go to and the
Hmm.
ability to sit down with one another.
Right.
Um, but we're not overly strict about that. I think that if we had more junior people, um, I think it's the junior people that really get shortchanged in the work from home environment because there's nobody
Hmm.
wandering by their desk, giving suggestions,
Hmm.
being present for them. Um, it's those people I worry about, and I
Right.
also worry about the fact that they're a lot of the jobs a junior person would do when they started working in the agency world were pretty fundamental works. It's kind of
Hmm.
wax on, wax off, wax on, wax off, and and but those things developed um, a discipline for them that
Right.
AI has kind of taken away. All of a sudden, they have to show up and be wise and savvy and have these higher level skills um, that for us were built on doing a lot of lower level work over a long period of time.
So, is there any way to compensate for that? Then I wonder. I mean, everybody, the temptation to if AI does this one thing well, and
Yeah.
like, can you still say, well, we still want you to do this, like using, okay, you have a calculator, but maybe make sure you know how to do the multiplication.
Yeah, but there's the economics of it don't work,
Yeah.
and it's interesting how many young people have on their resume that they're brand strategists, which is just like that's like joining the military as a captain. You know,
Hmm.
brain strategy, becoming a brain strategist is just built on this massive pile of experience. In my case, doing thousands of ads, reading thousands of briefs, writing
Hmm.
briefs, experiencing what works, what doesn't work, thinking deeply about it. And so I think that's going to be the challenge for them. And how to make that up, um, they're just going to have to run really fast.
Well,
Yeah,
I know.
yeah, because I think historically people have gone from agency work to client side. I think there may be more shifting back because on client side you do get some of that experience in a more visceral way. But agencies, we just expect people to be able to do their job on day one, and we don't have the jobs that are best solved by their skill set.
Okay. Interesting. Okay. So I do think no matter what, I think whatever the field is, those repetitions, like you said, doing those thousands of
Yeah.
ads, there's just no
Yeah.
replacement for,
Yeah.
because you learn, you learn what you did wrong or right, or you did
Hmm.
something right enough, it got through, but then the next one was even
Sure.
better.
Sure.
Well, we always like call this a What's Working podcast just because things have changed so much. What would you say is one of the things that is working, let's say, better for you than it ever has now, or things that you're having to change? Is there anything that's frustrating in growing a business or an agency or maintaining it right now that is different?
Well, we've shifted our work from, you know, clients who wanted a bunch of stuff done. Like we need, when we were working with Best Buy, they run 150 campaigns a year, and each one of those campaigns has, 35 different executions in it,
Hmm.
and they needed a machine to do that. And we built that machine. It was a great machine and was successful for them. But now because we're more of a consortium of senior people are coming to us and asking the question, who am I? And you can see this, one of the fruits of that posture. If you go to people's websites, in the front page, the home page, looks like a catalog where they list, say you're a school, a university. They'll list all their different programs, but they never say anything about themselves in aggregate.
Mm.
They
Right.
don't, and you see, they all look like your Amazon homepage. They just have a lot of stuff you can sign up for or buy or whatever. But there's no brand promise that comes through on those pages. And the reason is they don't know what it is. And
Hmm.
so, one of the great opportunities we have is to help people understand, who they are and how that can compel their customers um, to join them. Whether it's in education, we have
Hmm.
a great preschool programs that we help. We have an industrial company we serve, 3M, et cetera, et cetera. It's helping them understand who they are. And this um, fun experience of I'll sit with a group of all the senior executives in a place, and they don't agree, and getting them around to a place where they can agree on, who they are.
Hmm.
And um, we think as marketers, our job is to come up with the best message that's going to persuade customers, right?
Right.
Um, but that isn't true. Uh, what's what we really have to do is we have to come up with the best message that our client will accept. There's a whole socialization that has to happen
Hmm.
with our clients. They're never going to put forth the best message if they don't buy it, right?
Right. Hmm.
And that whole process of socializing messaging, and as a senior person, I can tell them, gee, I don't think, guys, I don't understand. You say this, but this is true. And, my gray hair gives me permission to do that in a way
Right.
that a young person who oftentimes will say, well, that's just not cool. Well, okay. Which actually I've heard if my younger years heard a creative tell the client if they don't buy this ad, they're not cool. Which I just, just only a young
That's
person
funny.
would do that, right? I guess there are probably senior
Just
people who do it
peer
too.
pressure them into accepting the
Yeah,
campaign.
yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah, because clients are so intimidated by us, right?
Interesting. Interesting. Well, I think that relates to, I was having a conversation the other day about someone was working with a company on their Spotify page, and they
Hmm.
said it used to just go directly to a product. They'd have an ad to a product. It's like
Yeah.
now you need a landing page to really tell the story of that product and
Yep.
introduce it. And I think that's kind of on line with what you're saying. Like people can research things so much easier nowadays and
Yeah,
know who this company is, what they support, what they believe, what they think, what's their driving,
that's right.
how do they treat their employees? Like
Yeah,
I've seen people who are like, I don't like this company because they don't pay their employees well. I'm not going to buy from
yeah,
them.
yeah. And we think about it as we have to bring humanity to humanity. When that final mile, AI won't get you there. That
Hmm.
final mile, that messaging that's all about how one human connects to another, that we have to have insight into who they are, what they want, what we have to offer that meets that.
Hmm.
Um, and we talk about empathy in that case where, without empathy, you're talking to a stone wall, or 25% off this week only,
Hmm. And
you know?
that either interests somebody or not.
Yeah.
It's just
And
either
then we'll do it again next week,
yeah,
and there are times when that's
of
appropriate,
course.
obviously. But people, if we want people to have a relationship with our brand, we have to want to have a relationship with our customers.
Right. So, coming back to the storytelling side of
Sure.
things. So I'm curious, sometimes is there ever a time where you have to choose between, let's say, really honing in the creative storytelling side or making sure you're delivering the best metrics to the client, or do they just go hand in hand? Do you find that the better the storytelling, the better the creative?
Yeah. I mean, it's the thing I like to say is if you're giving away free beer, you got to say free beer,
Hmm.
I mean, you're the perfect crosshatch between you got free and you got beer and you're right there, right? So that has to be up front.
Right.
And if you can do free beer is a difficult one to say because who would say no?
Hmm.
They're not going, oh, it's not warm or it's warm, you know. But if it's something maybe a little bit off that, you have to get the proposition out there. But how can you surround that with language that's compelling? Um,
Hmm.
I remember I had the honor of my first job. I was working on Harley Davidson. Unbelievable! What for a young man, what a macho account. Though I didn't ride a motorcycle, I'm kind of scared of them. But we did this ad that showed. I don't know if you're familiar with the Harley piggy bank, but it
Hmm.
looks like the gas tank on a Harley, and we had a hammer coming down on it, and it said improve your life through animal sacrifice, and it was a great way of saying spending. Or a little, this little ad we did. It was ridiculous, but it was for um, cruises in Norway, and they were inexpensive. Okay, inexpensive cruises to Norway. So how do you say that in a fun way?
Hmm.
And the headline was affordable Norwegian vacations. Now it's ridiculous, of course. It's
No,
a
I wish I would
terrible,
have come up with it.
yeah, it's a terrible pun, but you got about this much room and you get it done. So,
Yeah.
yeah, or another example of we're selling carpet, right? It's got this stain protection on it, and you say the headline was "Brother-in-law proof this carpet" or "Kid proof this carpet." You
Right.
know, it allows people to have an imagination about what this can do for them.
That's awesome. That's gonna live in my head forever now. Before,
I just, and you shouldn't do stupid puns. I maybe have done three in
not
my
all
career,
the
and I'm
time,
still
but
delighted. Yeah.
If it works, it works.
Well, and it also, if it makes you giggle, I mean, me giggle, then it might make others giggle.
No, but like you said, you have that much time to catch
Yeah.
someone's and
Yeah.
it's just different enough. Somebody's got to see the misspelling in the word and they're going
Yeah.
to catch it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
if it works, it works. It's good.
Yeah.
Uh, Finally, we're running through our time today. I always like to ask you if you were talking directly, let's say, to a young marketing person just coming into it. They've just graduated college. Maybe they're going to their first job or they're going to think about starting their agency. What would be the number one piece of advice you would give them just to get started and get in the right direction?
Decide precisely what you're going to do, what you want to do. If you want to be a writer, great. You want to be a designer, art director, media person, et cetera, et cetera. These young people that are like, I don't know, I'd like to experience a sampler platter, and then I'm going to decide what I'm going to do, and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
Nobody needs that. Nobody's looking to train, young people. What they need is they need a junior media person, or they need a junior writer, and to be very precise and committed to what you want to do is the only way forward. And be very good at it, because the thing people don't realize is AI, because their AI is taking over so many of the boring jobs that you have to be really good to succeed, and you have to know exactly what you want to do. And that's easier for writers, for example, because
Mhm.
I mean, we're writers. We're born writers. We love words. But I think and same probably for designers and art directors. But in other disciplines, you just have to know exactly what you want to do, what you should do. And you got to be on a mission, and you can't allow anyone to dissuade you from that.
That's good. That's good. Know thyself.
Yeah,
Very
and
important.
But I talk to all sorts of young people, and I have this thing I do every time. I say, okay, here's your problem. You don't know exactly what you want to do, blah 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 blah. And I say, I will help you get the job you want, but you have to come back, think about it, and come back and tell me exactly what the job is you want and why you're going to be great at it. And you can't believe how many people never come back.
I can. I think I can.
Yeah, I
I've
mean,
seen
it's
it.
just like, oh, I don't want to pigeonhole myself. Well, too bad. Nobody needs, this junior jack of all trades unless they need you to go get coffee to be a gopher or something.
Yeah.
Then don't start as a gopher. This isn't Hollywood.
That's all very, very sound advice. Thank you so much for coming on the show
Yeah,
today. I appreciate it. I hope some people watching today get some great information out of it. I know I've
yeah,
enjoyed it very much.
yeah. Well, create with joy, man. So,
Yes, that's the goal every day.
yeah, amen.
I'm gonna co-opt that saying a little bit for my everyday.
Okay, good. Spread the word, and so that's
Making
great.
a movement. All right.
Absolutely.
All right.
Okay.
Thank you, Tom.
Yep.
Have a
Be
wonderful
well.
day.